The most important words in motorsports, the marketing director for Hyundai of North America, Paul Imhoff.
Drivers, start your engines.
Well, with that command, we are ready to go racing once again. And again, this is a stacked schedule, Cal, where we are right on top of each race. And this is the combined group that'll be racing here, TCR and TCA. So this one should be a good one. And you take a look, Cal, at the qualifying order in this one. And you got Ryan Eversley is on the pole, and by a fair little chunk for a series that is designated, a class designated to be very close. That has big implication because he's also the point leader, so he picked up that extra point.
Yeah, it was critical, and everyone kept throwing arrows at him in that qualifying session. Mark Wilkins stayed out, finally got a lap time that was good enough for the front row. Michael Lewis went back out there. Eversley finally had to take the car out on the racetrack in case he needed to respond, but no one had enough in the tank to really get to him. And a big moment yesterday is when there was the announcement that Adam Merzon had to return home, and suddenly that sister car in the real-time camp was vacant. I heard a pretty impressive shortlist was quickly established, but they gave the nod to Michael Cooper. First time in the car, puts the car there, fifth on the grid, and expect more from him today. It was a quick learning curve. He burned off the front a little bit in that qualifying session as he got to grips with one of these TCR cars for the very first time. But you know Michael Cooper, he can drive anything quick.
That he can. I was very impressed by what he did because that qualifying session was his first time in the car, and really did a superb job. And there you see Eversley. Then you see the two Hyundais, and then right behind them is Matt Fosnot, and he has been on form in that Murillo Racing Audi in this TCR category this weekend. Really, really stout, turning a good lap, a 1 minute 18.863, and put him fourth on the grid. And then you can see the rest of the combatants. There's the 44 of Cooper as they bring the field around. Then there's a little bit of a gap back to your TCA category, and on the pole there you see the number 95, and is the Tech Sport Racing Subaru, and they have had a very strong run this year, certainly that Tech Sport team. A lot of them in the championship in the Tech Sport Racing Subaru. However, Tom O'Gorman came into the championship leading. He still does. He was on that front row for most of that qualifying session, Cal, and then pitted and said, I'm done. And he kind of had to do that because that's the lone front drive car at the front of this TCA field. And if he goes out and burns his tires down, he's going to have a real issue during the race. But after he stopped, teammate Eric Powell, Jeff Sexton, pipped him and shoved him back to the second row. So I'm sure Tomo is a little bit lit today.
Yeah, I think he's, he recognized he's got a nice 10-point lead in the championship, but the bad news is one thing to give up maybe a race win to Eric Powell today or whatever, but when Powell as his teammate suddenly plugging the gap as well and buffering the points further back, suddenly you drop, 5 points in one hit, and that points lead could be halved if it went down that way. So you got to feel that he wants a little bit more than just settling in and picking up points here today. Long way to go in this championship still.
Yeah, and Tomo, pretty creative, and he's the representative, the ambassador, if you will, for Track Night America. And there was an SCCA club event here a couple of weeks back, and he pitched Track Night America to let him come out and help coach and coordinate. And then he found a ride in one of the Spec Miatas.
Right.
So even though you're not allowed to take your team and test, he was able to get a few laps around here. Some people were kind of shaking their heads, and I went, that's just smart.
Yeah, very much so.
Absolutely.
He's very much on top and looking for any little edge he can get in his game. 6 rounds of the championship so far. All 6 victories have gone to the 3 drivers sitting 1, 2, 3 on the grid. They've split them 2 apiece, but Eversley has now an 8-point lead in this championship with a bonus point for pole here today.
And this is full sprint version, 40 minutes. And these TCR cars, if you haven't seen them this year, they have remarkable performance. And watch for that green flag to fly. Boy, that's about as good a lineup as you can get. Once it goes, Cooper took a look to the inside. At 98, that's Michael Lewis. Eversley right down the center of the track. And Wilkins is going to drive around the outside. One of the VWs in the back locking up big time. And that's young TJ Kupal.
Yeah, he has to go through that little tire chicane there, which costs quite a bit of time, and he's going to lose out to all of these TCR cars as well. So Eversley up front.
Boy, and O'Gorman, by the way, got his nose down inside Powell, and he wanted to lead going into turn 4 if he could and try and manage things from the front because he just hasn't had the pace. Sorry, Cal.
Yeah, look at Cooper there, really putting the pressure on Michael Lewis there early in the go, and Lewis has to defend that wide open entry to turn 7. One of the few changes to this racetrack in recent years is opening up the entry to that corner and tightening up the exit a little bit.
And Cooper looked to me like he got a great exit out of that turn 7 that leads onto this long back straight, and wasn't able to do much with it. But look at Matt Fosnot right there as well in that orange and black Murillo Audi, having a good run, but already Eversley starting to gap the field just a little bit.
Yeah, there was a recent round of global balance of performance change. Effectively, the PWC rules mimic what they run in the World Touring Championship, and there was a recent round of adjustments, and it really seems to have swung the favor a little bit towards Honda, and you can see that from the pole position for Eversley, the times, and certainly the gap that he's established early on here. Look at Fosnot very close to Michael Cooper there under braking for the festival curves.
And then going back to the TCA group, O'Gorman tried hard, did jump from 3rd to 2nd, but it was Powell was able to hang on. A couple of the other Tech Sport cars in the background there, you see the number 79 of Spencer Patterson under attack a little bit from the 25 of PJ Gronke. And PJ had just a brutal qualifying day yesterday. And, of course, he comes in as the reigning Touring Car B champion in the final year of that championship. Very adept racer and was frustrated. But now O'Gorman's just got to try and figure out something to keep Powell in sight. And O'Gorman, I think, after qualifying, mentioned that he said the car didn't feel right, and they did find something, he said, in the setup.
Yes, he did. So he certainly came into this race with a lot of optimism that can be quickly extinguished if you don't suddenly have the pace. But he's got between the two teammates, which is important. And now he's just got to look at the tail end of that Subaru BRZ and see what it's got for him here today. Certainly down the straightaways, they seem to be a little bit stronger than the Honda, maybe 3 miles an hour or so.
And of course, the issue for Tomo, being the lone car at the sharp end of things, that is front-wheel drive. You ask so much of those front tires when you're pushing a front-wheel drive car right to the limit. It's braking, it's turning, it's accelerating, and you've got to really manage the tires, and that's been an issue that he's dealt with all year. The speed has always been there, but it's just at the end of these races, sometimes he just doesn't have much left.
Well, he uses them up, but he uses them up to efficiently, so he's basically out of tire at the end of the race. But he's a really good young man and does some great stuff behind the wheel. Very sharp marketing-wise. Ticks all of the boxes in terms of being a pro race car driver. So he looks to move up the ranks. Wilkins is certainly not letting Eversley get away. Pretty even gaps there between the top 5 as we enter this 3rd lap down the backstretch. Wilkins, in fact, a little bit quicker than Eversley on that last lap. He was laid down the fastest lap of the race so far at 1:19.2, which compares to 1:18.3 that Eversley laid down in qualifying.
And just to give you a little bit of comparison, this is the first time you've seen the TCR cars. We talk about that their performance, belies the platform, if you will. You look at it, it's a small, front-wheel drive car, but the way they're built and designed, they get around the track. Eversley's pole time was within a second of the GTS pole that was set here this morning. These cars are quick.
Yeah, in the top 4, Eversley 1:19.1, Wilkins 1:19.2, Michael Lewis new fast lap of the day 1:19.0, and Michael Cooper at 19.2. So Cooper is finding his feet in one of these TCR machines very, very quickly. Multiple Pirelli World Challenge champion in touring car and GTS, won a Sprint X championship last year with Cadillac, he and Jordan Taylor. So he gets the job done.
You just saw there the graphic, the number 69, Anthony Girazzi, and the HRD, the Heinlein Racing Development Audi, is our Optima Batteries Best Start Award winner, up 4 spots on that opening lap. He'd had a little issue in qualifying, was way at the back of the field, but was able to make a good launch here and has fought his way now right up into the 7th position. So good run for him. Although he's got some pressure here from the number 12 of Filippi.
Yeah, he's putting the pressure on here. So Anthony Girazzi running the Audi, Filippi running the VW platform. Oh, someone's there wide in the dirt.
That hurts him. Yep.
Gets it back together. Fosnot kind of hanging on here to Cooper. Cooper's dropped back a little bit from this lead trio. Lead trio now ducking at the 118 range. Lewis a new fast lap at 118.7. Wilkins 118.9 and Eversley a 118.8. Very close between the top three.
You know, it's interesting here. Eversley leads the points. Wilkins is second. Lewis is third. But coming into this weekend, there have been 6 races in the TCR championship. Michael Lewis has 5 fast laps. Yeah. I mean, he is just quick in these cars.
You know, both the Hyundais had an issue at VIR, and fortunately for Wilkins, it was past the halfway point, so he scored points. For Lewis, it was not, so that really hurts your championship chances, and he now sits 18 points behind the leader, Ryan Eversley. We've gotten us to a point in the season, Greg, where you hate to talk about team orders, but you can't afford to let Eversley get too far away. So in the next rounds or two, you'd have to think that Brian Herder Autosport will be thinking about that in terms of who's their leading charge to try and chase down that Honda for the championship.
As you said, that Honda has had pace, but Ryan Marine, along with the pace this weekend, has come a little bit of drama. Sorry, to Gino.
Thanks, Greg. I wouldn't quite call it drama, but you know what? There have been some changes at the real-time pit today over this weekend. They did have originally Adam Merzon driving the number 44 car on circumstances out of our control. We have a new driver in the car. Tell me about that, Peter. I'm with the team principal, Peter Cunningham.
Yeah, Adam was called away unexpectedly, and rather than let the car sit in the pit lane, we needed to figure out who to drive it, and Michael Cooper was standing there with his helmet, so I asked him, and Michael's a good friend and a great driver and a great person, and it just worked out, and he was willing to step in, and without any practice at all, he went out in qualifying and put it 5th on the grid, and now he's running 4th so far, so we're pretty happy to have him in the car.
And so is it true that he basically only sat in the car before he went on this thing and threw it in the 5th place on the grid?
Absolutely, yeah. He had never been in the car, and he just was forced to go out in qualifying and try to put it somewhere towards the sharp end of the field, and he did just that.
That's pretty outstanding. True tribute to Cooper and his skills. So thank you very much, Peter.
Well, I understand Petey was on that short list as well. He actually sat behind the wheel, but he said, you don't want to get too sweaty. It's pretty warm out there.
It's a toasty day.
Sort of decisions you have to make as the team principal.
That's right. And you get to make that decision, don't you? And I'll tell you what, you're absolutely right, though. It's tough to find a better gun to throw into that than Cooper with what he's achieved. Remember, his first championship was in the touring car category. And the one thing that he obviously had to learn with was the front tires and how these cars will abuse them. He was pushing it hard and everything, and they basically said, the car came in and said, we looked at those tires and went, oh, we really should just throw those away now. But that's how you learn.
Yeah, it is, and I think that will be the concern as this race wears on, as what the tire will be like for Michael Cooper in terms of adapting to this platform. Certainly the opening laps, he was right there. You can see him drifting back a little bit right now. His last lap was, kind of 3/4 of a second off the leader's pace.
A good job here. You talked about Lewis having the fast lap in the race, but those two Hyundais are not letting Eversley in that Type R get too far up the road, and now there's going to be traffic is going to come into play. This is when things get interesting in this two-class race.
Absolutely, but we've seen Eversley have really good rhythm through the traffic in previous rounds of this championship. He can be super aggressive. He's willing to put a little bit more on the line, it seems, and take a few more chances, and he's been getting away with it. But right there, it did look like he lost a little bit of the gap there. And Wilkins looked slightly closer than he was the previous lap. He's now down to 0.4 of a second for the lead.
Boy, it's that close as they feed into those festival curves. That traffic, as you said, definitely has packed things up just a little bit here.
For Michael Lewis there, as you said, he has the fastest lap of the race, and he's a quick study. I mean, he hadn't really driven front-wheel drive machinery before in anger, and certainly Mark Wilkins has for many years, with the Kia GTS team. And here we look at the start again.
And one of the things to watch the number 18, the Copeland Motorsports entry of Jared Andretti. And he just got into the back of JT a little bit, and that's what's forced him off track. And apparently Jared was assessed a drive-through penalty for instant responsibility. So he's back in the order a little bit, and it's going to have to come back up through the field. Great to have an Andretti racing with us here, certainly. And I said John by accident because it's his dad.
Well, he's also doing some sprint car competition as well, and I read a quote this week where he said he's going to be doing 30 races in 57 days. So He's certainly not letting any rust build in terms of his racing performance.
Well, I tell you, those sprint car schedules, you think other schedules are brutal. Those guys, you know, run sometimes 2, 3, 4 times a week.
I know. If you want to earn a living running one of those cars, you got to stay busy.
Absolutely, but it certainly does keep your racecraft sharp.
More traffic coming up ahead for the TCR leaders. And there can be some real awkward spots to catch that traffic around this twisty, windy section right here from turns 4 all the way to turn 7 when you get on that winding back straightaway.
Here's turn 6 that we have been talking about, and that is Eric Powell, your leader in TCA. And again, Eric, that Tech Sport team has just been an amazing evolution for them. When they first came into it, you know, it was very much a startup program, and they have managed it to perfection to really something of a juggernaut in touring car category racing. And these Subaru BRZ TS machines that they're fielding right now have proven to be very, very fast. O'Gorman sits in second in that category, as we talked about. Then the number 89, the team car to Powell of Sexton. And there he is, carrying a little bit different graphics and color scheme in the car, the TransUnion First Wealth Financial Group machine. And then there's a big gap from these guys now back to, this is kind of a good story too, is Mosey Uretsky in the Murillo Racing Mazda Global MX-5 Cup car. Didn't quite have the qualifying he wanted, but really has made up a ton of ground at the start of this race and has jumped up into 4th.
Yeah, it's a great run for him. It certainly is, as the leaders are now looking way ahead. In terms of the TCR leaders looking ahead at this TCA traffic that they will encounter pretty shortly. And Eversley's made a little bit better run through the traffic so far as Gab Wilkins to the tune of 1.2 seconds. Lewis in close proximity to his Hyundai teammate.
And I would submit that as you get farther up into the TCA ranks here, the guys that are battling for position and points up front, they're not going to just open the door and let you come blasting through if it's going to cost them time and distance to the guy that they're chasing. So this is when things get a little bit tricky, sometimes even treacherous for the overtaking class. Boy, Ryan read it perfectly there, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He's caught that traffic nicely. There's Sexton there on the exit of turn 7. He's already by O'Gorman. Looks like the Hyundai boys are going with him. And I think for Ryan Eversley, he may not catch Powell until the front straightaway. So you could not get a better, you couldn't script that traffic dynamic any better for Ryan Eversley.
That worked to absolute perfection. And now these two Hyundais, they need to clear Powell here on this front straight too. I'm not sure that's going to happen quite as easily.
A bit close, but strong and down into the brake zone as well. So they got a lot more aero effect, which aids and plants the tires into the ground for the brakes. Oh, look at there. Wow, Powell really cut across the bows there of Michael Lewis.
That's exactly what I was talking about. If he just lifted and let him come through, that hard-earned 3-second lead over O'Gorman, he could have just lost half of that in a heartbeat. And he's certainly not compelled to just let you through. Now he's going to have to deal.
Well, in your head, you're playing mind games with yourself. You think, okay, I've given up a couple of tenths. Oh, I don't want to give up another couple of tenths. Do you know what I mean? And you get antsy, and he just wanted to get on with his own program. And that really hurt Michael Lewis a little bit. So don't be surprised to see Michael Lewis lay down a really fast lap time. He's had the fastest lap of the race so far, and now there's a bit of a gap between he and his teammate, Mark Wilkins. And then you get into a bit of a conundrum. We talk about the championship in terms of team orders, but then if the Hyundai guys believe that Lewis has any pace on Mark Wilkins, do you try and let him go and chase down Ryan Eversley? So all of these different scenarios playing out during the course of this 40-minute race.
Well, and right now, Hyundai leads the Manufacturers' Championship by 10 over Honda. So, yeah, you may well. What's the goal here for the team? Certainly, I would think for Hyundai, it's the Manufacturers' Championship, and the drivers are there to help achieve that in their mind. The drivers' different stories. Look how quickly Lewis closed back up on Wilkins.
Yeah, he really gap up really, really quickly.
Oh, and a problem again for PJ Gronke. He worked beautifully, worked his way up into the 5th spot after starting right at the back of the field, essentially, after a problem in qualifying, and just came into the pits. Something has gone wrong, left the pit lane, and then suddenly lifted again, pulled over, and has stopped. And the Tech Sport guys long run down there. That's a real shame for PJ.
Yeah, and he started off the season with so much promise, a couple of podium runs at Coda in the opening rounds of our championship, and since that time, struggled to find the same sort of speed and luck. So a lot of talent there, though, so I'm sure they'll live to fight a better day.
Up there, it's Michael Cooper, coming off a championship last year in the GT Sprint X category with Jordan.
Yes.
That he co-drove to the championship with.
What an age ago.
It certainly does, doesn't it?
Cadillac program.
Wow.
Longer with us this year.
I remember when they were working in that car on the driver changes. And, Jordan was talking about he had that bizarre sort of seat insert stuff down the back of his driver's seat. And I was talking to him about, I said, do you really need that? I said, you guys are both tall boys. And he went, yeah. He said, but I'm wide receiver tall. He's linebacker tall.
Yeah, Johnny Boutte.
Yeah.
Added to his trim stature.
Yeah, good stuff. Look at this. Yeah, Lewis. To have dropped back like he did and made this up that fast, that tells you that he's got speed once again.
Yeah, but playing the team game right now, certainly he's not going to force any opening that's not there on his teammate Mark Wilkins, and Mark doesn't want to give up the championship charge either. He's only 8 points behind Eversley in the championship chase. Doesn't want to give another couple up by letting his teammate by.
Well, and here's something to address on that, Cal. One, these are two genuinely nice guys, and they really seem to have formed a fast friendship. They really seem to enjoy each other's company and the like. But also, at Circuit of the Americas, and you called it during that race, at one point late in the race that Lewis won, he had a little bobble, and Wilkins could have probably slipped down underneath and taken it away, and Wilkins didn't go after it and didn't risk any kind of contact. And that's just how these two guys race. It'll be interesting to see what dynamic unfolds here. But again, that's that, a favor was done. Now it's maybe time to return it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that day they realized that, everyone was finding their feet. It's a brand new program. Brian Herder Autosport, Hyundai. No one wanted to make that critical error in terms of going for a gap that the teammate didn't see. So, yes, Michael had that bobble, I think. For Mark Wilkins, he certainly had the opportunity. There was a local yellow in play as well, so there's a lot going on, and Mark just decided to give it up that day, but that didn't go unnoticed by the whole group.
PJ Grunke back out on track, but clearly whatever problem it is, it's not totally resolved itself. Now he picks the throttle back up just a little bit. He may have just been letting that group through, trying to stay out of the way. Here we go again through turn 12. 21 coming up on the halfway point of this race. 21.5 minutes to go in a 40-minute event. And then there's Cooper and that lead group of four now. A little bit off under their own here, but once again, Matt Fosnot, the 74 Murillo Racing entry, sits fifth. He's back a little ways, but his best lap is not too far off of Cooper's, only a couple of tenths. Yes, certainly really, quicker than anybody else right now. Sorry,
really impressive performance by Murillo Racing here this weekend to get that car up amongst these kind of semi-factory teams, as we call them. Certainly the powerhouse teams in the championship, with strong support from Honda and Hyundai in terms of real time. And Brian Herder Autosport, that was a brilliant qualifying performance by Matt.
Well, of course, the team owner that runs the program now, Ken Murillo, we can't call him Kenny anymore because his son's Kenny, and that gets confusing. But Ken Murillo actually ran here back in the last time that World Challenge was here in the 04-05 era, and I think did some club races here. And I asked him, I said, is that a secret weapon? You got all these details and everything? He said, you won't believe how much time I spent digging trying to find data books from that time, trying to figure out, is there anything that we can use that'll help us here? And I don't know if that's the cause or not, but boy, Fosnot has lived up to that fast part of his name.
Well, it was so long ago you were literally digging for books versus some software program where you may have stored it,
Exactly.
A scrap of paper maybe deep in your office desk somewhere. All of the leaders have plateaued a little bit into the mid-50s late in the going. 6, 7, 8 tenths off of their fastest laps of the day as the leaders going through traffic again there, as we could just see as we caught them heading into turn 4.
Eversley, I think, got parked just a little bit there, but it looked as though Wilkins and Lewis were going to end up catching the traffic mid-turn 4-5, which will be even worse for them. But here's Powell leading and has really opened that margin up significantly now over O'Gorman, almost 6 seconds for Powell.
Yeah, comfortable for Powell, but not so comfortable for O'Gorman, who's got Sexton still within a second off him. I think Powell will be happy to see the gap. I'm sure he's still looking in his rearview mirror, not worried about where O'Gorman is, but is Sexton, my teammate, getting around him and giving me a couple more points in terms of the chase in the championship.
There is that Track Night America Grid Life Honda Civic. And it's really his own team and program, but it's sort of been assisted this year and transported by Real-Time Racing. So you've got some fairly knowledgeable Honda hands nearby if you've had some sort of an issue. Tom was delighted when that opportunity presented itself.
Yeah, and he does a lot for the Honda brands. I'm
Yes,
certain that all of the Honda management have got their eye on his progress through the ranks, and who knows, in a handful of years we may see Tom competing in a Honda platform, but a little bit higher up the motorsports ladder.
I think he's got the skills for it.
Gap at the front there, you were right. Eversley lost about half a second to Wilkins in that traffic exchange, so the gap at the front is down to 1.1 seconds with Lewis not far behind his Hyundai teammate. Has been the case all day long.
By the way, here it's fascinating to watch how that front drive car, the approach into that quick 10-11 left-right, how much more rotation that car gets than the rear drive cars, the Subarus that Tom is racing with at this stage. It just looks much more darty as he makes that turn in. And that's a high-speed piece of racetrack, so.
Yep, it's certainly the critical part of this circuit. It's the most challenging part. It's quite simple in other areas. I mean, all of the drivers who are coming here for the very first time have said it's a relatively easy racetrack to learn. But that means that everyone's compressed. We're seeing some very compressed grids here this weekend in terms of the time spread between the first 10, 20 cars in some of the classes. We've got a GTS race coming up in a little bit, which is going to be super competitive. But that means if you have an edge, you've got to really dig deep for, as we see the 18 off the road here. Jared Andretti. See which part of the racetrack this is in, whether it causes a reset with a caution. So he's got some life back.
I think that's over in the turn 4 area, and he's just pulling it as far off as he can. Something has gone awry. So watching right now that Brian Herta Hyundai team having a really solid run, but still trying to figure out the secret to get up and run with Ryan Eversley. Gino Carini, what are they saying from the pit wall?
Well, I have a rare opportunity here. I'm actually with the marketing director, Paul Imhoff, with Hyundai of North America. Paul, first race of the year?
Yeah, first race of the year, Gino.
What do you think? What are you thinking?
Portland's amazing. I love this track. Really fast track. We've got Mark and Michael out there just doing a great job. We're running 2-3 right now, but we're excited. I think we got a little more in us. Get ahead of Honda.
No, I understand that everybody's trying to get ahead of the Hyundais, the Hondas, but the program seems to be working very well. How do you guys feel about your program here at Pirelli World Challenge?
You know, I was talking to some of your PWC guys, and you know, to be the first year out and have this much success, we're really thrilled about it. You know, our motorsports team back in Korea and Germany, we're doing a lot of great things, and this is just the result of everything that we're doing out there. So really excited, really thrilled to be a part of it.
Well, I don't think you're half as thrilled as we are to have you, so thank you again. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, buddy. Thanks.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, this is truly a global platform, this TCR category, and it's receiving rave reviews around the world right now, and it certainly has some tremendous potential here. And it's great to see it. One thing that you don't think about too much, and you mentioned it, and for those people, Cal, that this might be the first time really watching TCR, these cars, you know, they're quick, but they're very aero sensitive as well. And you feel this aero in this car.
Oh, you really do. I mean, they're a delight to drive, gives a race car driver everything he's looking for. You can see them there. They're sexy race cars, and the fans love it. It's a great platform, very well balanced. Even though they're front-wheel drive, Greg, they drive more like a rear-wheel drive car in terms of how the diffs are working and set up on these race cars. So I think it's a great platform. It's at a really good price point for the privateer as well. And certainly, as we've seen here today with the Hyundai representatives here this weekend, they're loving what they're seeing here in this championship.
And just up in front of the lead three here is the second place battle in Touring Car A, and Sexton is starting to heap some pressure on O'Gorman, and these three are going to come up and catch them here right about the turn 7 area as they try and get ready to head down that long back straight. Be interesting to see if anybody just gets balked just a little bit.
I think Eversley's going to get him in the right spot again.
You think so?
He should clear these guys pretty quickly unless they get side by side and balks him a little bit. See if he can thread the needle.
Did it again.
Yeah. Well, the key is going to be for Wilkins, can he clear it? Yes, he does the same job. So I don't think anyone gained or lost anything in that exchange.
Yeah, and it didn't really affect the O'Gorman-Sexton battle either. Those two guys worked very well and with that faster class traffic, and that's what you like to see. Now, one thing I did want to say is Lewis floated a little wide there, but I think he was opening the arc up, trying to get a run.
Getting his hands open and just trying to get a little bit more exit speed and be close enough to his teammate to maybe pressure him into a little mistake here. You know that, yeah, you're a team player, you're playing the team orders, but you know for Michael Lewis, he would love the opportunity to get around Mark Wilkins and have a dig at Ryan Eversley. Gap has never been this close, 0.6 of a second, other than the very start between the leaders.
Yeah, and at some point, I mean, you talked about it. It's a very hard decision when you tell somebody of the caliber and just a gentleman of Mark Wilkins, sorry, bud, can you move over?
Well, I think if the roles were reversed, if the positions were reversed, and with Mark's position in the championship, if he was showing a little bit more pace, it would be an easier call for the team to make. Listen, Mark got a bit more pace. He's the closest guy in challenging for that championship lead. Let him go. But right now, they've got to look at the championship picture, and it's a tough one. It's a tough call.
Indeed.
You know, we've still got 5 rounds to go after this weekend, so a lot can happen.
The one thing you were talking about, these being sexy cars, and they're also unique cars because you look inside, these are paddle shift. I mean, this is a modern car, with the paddle shifting and the like, but where the gear lever used to be, there's still this very huge looking, mechanical looking item here, and it's a handbrake system that they use for standing starts.
Well, Wilkins there, a little twitch there under braking. He's pushing in deep there.
And I asked these guys at one point, I said, okay, you use it just to hang on while you just get the revs up and engage the clutch with a standing start. You ever just tap it to get a little rotation in the corner? And they went, it's tempting, but it does root up tires pretty bad. So probably not. But that's one of the cool things about this class is it's a standing start rules package globally as well, and you'll see that tomorrow when you tune in. And yes, that was a subtle nudge to make sure you do.
And I was surprised actually at how well tuned all of those systems are. When we went to the first one, I'm like, hold your breath here, we could see some drama, but everyone's been getting really good launches, so they're obviously well dialed in with these systems in terms of the standing, the launch control.
I think Cooper here is doing a considerably impressive job. He's only 3.5 seconds off of Lewis.
Yeah, and he'll be learning every step of the way. So he looked like he had a lot of pace initially in a game. Maybe just used the fronts up a bit too much. Has lost touch with the leaders here. But each day he's just going to get stronger. So could he be a factor in the overall scheme of things tomorrow? Right now it would be Lewis on pole, Eversley front row. Wilkins would line up behind them. Right now it would be Michael Cooper alongside Mark Wilkins on the second row.
While we watch this battle here, we're going to check in once again with Gino, who's with a driver who came in here 5th in the points, Gino, but it's just been a tough start to the weekend for PJ.
Yeah, I know. PJ, he did. He came in 5th in the points. He had a really bright future for today's race. PJ, I know it's disappointing, buddy. What are you thinking?
Gino, just utter disappointment. We started off the season really well. I got double podiums at COTA, and then it's just kind of been a little bit of a downhill spiral from there. The Tech Sport team is awesome. They're doing everything they can for me. It's just been a bad run of luck, unfortunately, and hopefully we can change that tomorrow.
I mean, and you and I both know in motorsports there's always that one little gremlin that just keeps biting us. I mean, do you have any indication of what could it be? I mean, you're going to be back tomorrow. Please tell me you'll be back.
Oh man, I wouldn't miss it for anything. Even if we got to put a motor in, whatever it is, I honestly think it might be a coil or something. It just, the engine went into limp mode and I'd reset it and go back out and then it would go back into limp mode. So it might be a coil or something like that.
Got it. I'm sorry to hear about it, PJ. Hope to see you back. We just found out your teammate Eric Powell is now out of the race. So not good day for Tech Sports.
Well, Gino breaking some news here. And there it is. You can see the 95 limping around. And when it happens to one car, and they're both Subarus, you wonder. And every once in a while, when you turn a race car, you build a race car out of a production street car. These buried codes in the electronics and all sorts of things.
Well, I'd heard stories, particularly with the GTS machines this weekend, about heat soak and these engines going into this engine. The manufacturers don't like the term limp mode. They like engine preservation mode. I've been told that by a couple of guys already this year. Please call it this, so I will. And but we haven't seen the extreme heat we were anticipating here today. So if it's a problem today, and it is in fact what's kicking in here, where the temperature engines got out of the temperature range it wants to work in, look out for tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course now we've seen another huge development in terms of points in this with
massive for Tomo.
Yeah, absolutely it is.
Oh, and look at this. The leader's going to catch him. Powell needs to be looking in the mirrors here and get out. Yeah, he does. Fortunately, he's ducking to the other pit lane, which is good news for Ryan Eversley.
I think it still may have been a heart in the throat moment for Ryan as he came up on him, and it was, what is he doing? Oh. But just kept the boot in it, as you would expect Ryan Eversley to do.
Yeah, Ryan's had a really good run through traffic. Some of that is luck and some of it is execution. I used to run against a guy called Ayrton Senna, and he used to do things like that to me. You'd see him in front of you, suddenly catch the traffic. Hawk and I remember 3 different chicanes there. He'd just get in front of the guy, and I'd stumble all over the back marker, and it'd be a 2-second gap. But so some of it is skill and execution, and some of it is just the luck of racing.
Wasn't that the year you said, yep, I set an all-time record in British Formula 3 that year for second place finishes?
It was Formula 4 2000.
Formula 4 2000, that's right.
British European, yeah. Finished second 15 times. That gets old.
Now we've got a battle for the lead that is on here, and you know that Eric Powell and that Tech Sport crew has radioed Sexton and go, attack, man. Take points away from O'Gorman. We need you to do that right now. And, of course, O'Gorman, that I've got to believe Tom has just been trying to baby those tires a little bit. And now with 7 minutes left, it's time to go.
Well, it's time to go, but it's also time to think about the big picture. If his team has told him, he'll have seen Powell sort of like going backwards. He'll have seen him on the road when he passed him. But nonetheless, think about the big picture. You're going to gain a bundle. Don't risk it all for just 3 more.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
See there, that entry to the new reprofile turn 7. I know it's been done a few years, but certainly new to me. Just a really wide open entry there, which when you're running by yourself, you just use all of the road to the left to swing through. But when there's someone close behind you, when you're running the normal racing line, suddenly it gets appetizing for the guy behind you to have a go.
Now watch here when we cut to the next camera and watch the rotation on O'Gorman's. I went to a different shot there of O'Gorman's car as he turns in to those S's there. It just snap rotates, and
he's just showing off.
He does a great job of hanging on to it. So yeah, I would. It's a good point. But yeah, that's, you know, with Powell, did I see Tomo just signal? He may have been given a signal to his pit crew, but
I thought I saw a turn signal going down into turn 4 on the previous lap. It's like, is he opening up the door here, or what's going on? I thought I saw a turn signal on there as well. So maybe he just wants to take the pressure off. But if you're going to do it, just make it a bit more obvious before you get cross lines of communication. This would be the easy way to do it. But
and now
he's just defending. He doesn't want to give it up.
And he's got the 77 of TCR Audi of Kupal from Compass Racing now. That's coming up.
Looked at JT this weekend, really loving this TCR platform. He said, not that keen on a front-wheel drive car, and he said, the problem for me is I'm tending to overdrive those tires, so you get late in the going and it becomes like a front. We talked about the balance being more like a rear-wheel drive car, but if you burn the front tires off, then you're just trying to control that power going to those front tires with not a lot of grip.
Kupal slices through, and look at that, Sexton trying to go down with him, and I think O'Gorman may have said, take it. And I think exactly back to what you were talking about, your point about big picture thinking. I'm going to make up a lot of ground on Sexton.
Well, I was getting confused. Initially, I thought that, and then suddenly, Kupal there running really wide through turn 10. So I was getting mixed signals, to be honest with you, from what Tomo was doing, but he certainly didn't look to be defending there. And he had to open up the door for JT to go through, and doesn't want to risk any contact with Sexton. Big day for Sexton, potentially.
Yeah, absolutely. And impressive day for Mosey Uretsky. Sitting third now, Cal, in TCA.
Podium would be awesome for him.
It would be. The lone Mazda MX-5 Global Cup car. He had 5 straight top 10s coming in here, and each race he's picked up a little bit more speed, a higher position, so it'd be righteous for him to claim a podium and keep that streak going.
Yeah, big jump to jump up onto that podium. But could we see a new winner this year? Yeah. 6 races so far have been shared between Powell and O'Gorman at 3 wins apiece. Is this the day for someone else to see victory lane?
Yeah, Sexton has had a couple of podiums, but never the top step of the box for sure. And you know who else is having a solid run is Jenny Gannett. This is her first season of racing, really, and she's had a couple of top 10s. Her best finish to date is a 7th. This could be her first top 5. And yes, obviously there's been a couple of cars that have had some mechanical issues and the like, but still, she has just put in a very solid drive today.
Look at this battle up front. Is there a change? There is a change. Wilkins has got around Eversley. The gap had shrunk to about 4/10 and late in the going here. Mark Wilkins is taking Hyundai to the front.
Almost have to believe that may have happened in some form of traffic. And look how close Cooper is.
Yeah, I think these leaders must have come across a big traffic area on the racetracks that allowed Cooper to close in. And look at Lewis. He'll be on the attack big time on Ryan Eversley, and that could really help. Mark Wilkins there is really struggling there for grip under braking, pushing it in really deep there. Look at Lewis. He has a run on. Can he do the undercut here as they come off of the festival curves? He looks to the inside.
He has been getting out of the festival curves. He's got a great line through it and is getting the power down. And that was where he was just closing up, going into 4 on the back of Wilkins constantly.
This could be a huge point in the championship. Be a 3-point swing right now, and if Lewis could get in front of Eversley, it'd be a 5-point swing for his teammate Mark Wilkins over Eversley. Cooper's there in the mix as well, so if Lewis is going to do it, he's got to do it quickly. His time is running out.
2 minutes to go, and again, Lewis got a pretty good drive off of turn 7, but Eversley able to now pull a gap. Just a slight gap, but one he needs nonetheless.
Mark Wilkins got anything in the tank. He needs to use it up right here.
So 2 laps.
Yeah, 2 laps. They're going to come across the line with a bit more time on the board to just complete 1 additional lap. So that will help Ryan Eversley potentially if he has anything left for the lead right now. It'll also help Michael Lewis in terms of getting that runner-up position as well. There's more traffic up ahead.
Yeah.
The leaders in TCA.
Into
Who will get the rub here?
Watch Lewis. He clouded that curve a little bit harder than he has been in turn 2. And that, I think, slowed him up.
Look at this. Wilkins chooses the wrong way. O'Gorman there really gave a mixed message there to our TCR leaders. And now Eversley is right there. Wilkins goes to the outside. Is O'Gorman going to give him room? Yes, he does. Hairy stuff here as we're coming down to the final moments of this race. Lewis looks to the inside.
What a move.
What a move by Michael Lewis.
Ooh.
Wow, and now Eversley is off the road. Bodywork's flying as his teammate Michael Cooper closes in on him. He's not going to do anything with him, but let him go. No drama there. Michael Cooper's not going to take points away, but the Hyundais now run 1-2.
I'll tell you what, that was a brilliant move by Michael going in, but he didn't exactly give a lot of racing room on the exit.
Well, to be honest with you, to make a move there, there's not going to be any room left.
Yeah.
You know, you can't slow it down to the point where you're going to give someone the lane. That's just the nature of that corner with the reprofile. 1 lap to go.
Here we go. White flag flies, and look at the energy down on pit lane. Eversley drifted over a little bit. Now has to tuck back in again.
Eversley's in trouble in there deep. Cooper needs to watch out, otherwise he's going to take out his teammate if Eversley's struggling for grip. He's burned the front tires off.
That and the fact he spent a long time in that dirt when he was forced off.
Oh, he's sliding.
Oh, yeah,
Eversley's in trouble. He needs to just regroup here, focus on a podium run. For Cooper, he needs to back off, otherwise he's going to run into his teammate if he has another issue.
And one thing he doesn't want to do, you just want, if it's a third place today for the real-time Honda Civic Type Rs, just make sure it's Eversley so he gets as much points as he possibly can.
We don't know in terms of that traffic exchange that mixed up the leaders here. I wonder if Eversley's actually got any damage potentially, if he had a little bump and run with someone. He definitely lost the balance in this race car all of a sudden.
All right, last time, into 10, into 11, and now the final corner, turn 12, round 7. Pirelli World Challenge, Touring Car R and Touring Car A is coming to a conclusion, and after running second and third most of the race, Hyundai goes 1-2 at Portland International Raceway with lots of developments and drama late in the action. Eversley does bring it home in third. What an incredible finish that was. Michael Cooper being a good wingman once he got close, as you alluded to, Cal. He easily backed out of it. Our TCA front runners are through, and Sexton earns his first win of the season. O'Gorman, some very useful points with the demise after leading most of the race by Eric Powell. Give a shout out here with a strong run as well to Breton Williams. Absolutely superb job. He's had one top 5 this year, was a 5th, so it's his best finish in his Tech Sport Subaru for the 22 of Breton Williams. But for O'Gorman there, the second place, he would have loved the extra points for first, but relative to the guys fighting in the championship, that was huge. And for Mark Wilkins, basically, that's a huge swing with him winning and Eversley, after leading most of the race, dropping to third.
Yeah, that's a big moment potentially in this championship. So I think it will close it to win 3 points. Eversley had an 8-point lead coming in. I think it was a 5-point swing between first and third.
Yes. Yeah, that is big. And Cooper was fourth. Matt Fosnot hung on in that drive with a great run. One of the few drivers, one of only 5 drivers to go sub 120. So Matt Fosnot on form in that Murillo Racing, number 74 Audi, having a good run. But Mark Wilkins brings it around here. This will be his 3rd win of the season.
Correction on the points is a 4-point swing, 25 to 21.
I think you were factoring in the pole point.
Yep.
Yeah. And his 6th podium in 7 races. And that's how you accrue points.
First guy to jump to 3 wins on the championship season, and at a critical time. Just could not afford to let that championship lead balloon out any further with Eversley's run here today. So curious to see how the drivers describe that moment.
Yeah.
Assume it was in traffic, unless Ryan Eversley was suddenly getting those handling issues that we saw late in the going on that lap and ran a little bit wide. And but nonetheless, that is a pumped up Brian Herder Autosport.
Yeah, just fantastic. A 1-2. And that's a nice development in and of itself for the championship, isn't it, Cal, to have a team like Brian Herder Autosport decide they want to get involved, bring this program here with a great manufacturer and make it happen. And Mark Wilkins, the ebullient Canadian, out of the car. Yeah, loving on that Hyundai.
Happy boy.
Yeah, as you would expect. Great job.
Brian Herder is very much into this program. Was at the early season rounds, actually at a promotional event earlier this week. He's busy with running Marco Andretti up in Toronto this weekend in the IndyCar Championship. So, but he's got a great group here, led there by John Ward, the smiling engineer there in the middle of that picture. To the right, should I say.
And you saw as Mark got out, the crew guy was going to give him a handshake, and Mark said, heck no, and grabbed him and gave him a big hug. This is very special stuff. Look at that celebration. Those two guys who have become very, very good friends. And hugs all around. I think Mark's pretty happy, Gino.
What do you think? You think he's happy?
I'm a little.
You think he's Mark? Okay, unbelievable finish to a race. Just go through that moment. Tell me what you saw. What happened out there?
Well, you know, Ryan was driving a great race. I mean, he was really pushing hard, and we were kind of back and forth quite a bit in the run. And then we just had traffic situation, and it didn't work out for him. It worked out for me. I got a run down the back stretch. We were able to hang on. and Michael was able to kind of capitalize as well. So just a fantastic day for Hyundai, the i30 and TCR. This car continues to impress. It's fantastic. It was a great day. Hopefully we can repeat it tomorrow.
And you think you can do that with all your bigwigs here from Hyundai?
Pressure's on, but getting this one in is nice. So it's a great way to start the weekend.
Great job. Congratulations, Mark. Good job.
Yeah, and a 1-2, and again, we didn't see the pass that Mark had. He talked about it just being a moment in traffic, but you got to give a shout out to Michael Lewis. That was an opportunistic move into 7.
Yeah, it really was a great pass, and for Ryan Eversley, he'll certainly be frustrated to lose those points there late in the going. But that's racing. That's why we come and hang on. That's why it's never over till checkered flag flies, as they say. But there you can see the results. Cooper very close to his teammate. I was worried about Michael Cooper with Eversley really struggling for grip there at the end, that it was going to get too close. That would have been an absolute disaster for the Honda team.
Yeah, and then again the great drive by Fosnat, and then Herzen, Filippi, Vincent, JT Kupal, even with that off in the early going in that tap, rebounding smartly. But in both of the classes, late race drama for long-time race leaders, and things changing up in a hurry. Mechanical for one, obviously, but traffic related for the other. But that's why the races continue till the checkered flag, because things do happen. And again, this is a big moment here as well for our winner in the touring car ranks. He's been close so many times, Gino, but Jeff Sexton is a winner.
He is. He's been right on the cusp, Jeff, a lot. And you finally did it this time. How did it feel? At what moment did you know, I got this one?
Thank you. This is my first Pirelli World Challenge win. Feels amazing. I've got to thank my grandpa. He's not with us anymore. I used to come to races here when I was younger with him. It's a great feeling. It's a great feeling. I knew I got him when I did an over-under on the back straightaway, and it was smooth sailing from there.
It's a great job. I know that Tech Sport had some unfortunate situations today in today's race, but you seem to just be as smooth as silk. Tell me about your drive. I mean, you were just so under control the whole thing and so patient.
Absolutely, yeah. My plan A was to try and get the first in turn 1. Once that didn't happen, I just want to sit back and conserve my tires. I knew I'd be strong at the end of the race. I've done that all year, and luck was kind of on my side this race, but I also pushed Tom really hard and was able to force him into defending and got him from there. So great.
Well, congratulations, Jeff, and I'm going to say not luck, all skill. Great job, my friend. Good job.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have something to write out a race with at the end, and when opportunity presented itself, he had taken care of those Pirelli P0s, he'd taken care of that Subaru, and had that weapon at the end.
He did. I mean, it's all about being in the right place at the right time, and Tomo drove a great race. I think that he would have maybe been a bit more defensive if Powell was still in the race, but I think he's willing to give up those couple of points there and look at the bigger picture on the day.
Yeah, absolutely, and of course, just always the concern for that front drive car, a little bit the tires on that car, and Tomo, I think, will take this one and be grateful for it. Certainly, you take a look, it is a mid-afternoon, well, it's a late morning start for the TCR TCA race tomorrow, so they'll have the cooler conditions of the day tomorrow compared to all of the other Pirelli World Challenge classes that will run. But it's still going to be warm, so it'll be interesting to see how that 8th round of the championship plays out. But this one was sure an interesting, drama-filled race, and congratulations to Mark Wilkins for winning the TCR event and for Jeff Sexton for claiming his first win in TCA. We're going to step away here from Portland International Raceway for just a little bit. We have one more race that we're going to be bringing you, and we'll be bringing it to you live right here on the web and on SiriusXM. Thanks for joining us. That will start at 7:40 Eastern Time, 7:40 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be back with the 7th round of the Sprint X GTS Championship in a field that is incredibly close-packed and deep in numbers. See you then.